Today, I'm getting straight to the point with 10 advanced tips you need to know things the game doesn't make clear. Common mistakes that cost you time and efficiency, and insights that make your progression much more consistent, especially when the difficulty really starts to ramp up. This isn't a press button X to win list. It's the kind of advice you only learn after taking a beating or after someone warns you. So leave a like because the video is about to start. Esoteric Ebb invites you to fall into the standard D&D build reflex, but I quickly learned that this is a different conversation entirely. The game rewards you when you build a character thinking about world reading and dialogue choices, not just fighting or physical checks. In practice, strength and dexterity do have their place. Forcing puzzles, carrying more gear, stealing, reacting quickly, but they aren't the magic shortcut to unlocking the richest conversations early on. That's why I like this tip of prioritizing wisdom and intelligence. Wisdom puts you in the vibe of noticing details, reading body language, and catching what people aren't saying, while intelligence gives you the repertoire and memory to go toe-to-toe with lore, history, and the arcane without feeling lost. And there's a detail that changes how you think about builds. In Esoteric Ebb, attributes aren't just numbers, they shape who your cleric is in dialogues, influencing the types of options that appear and the paths you open up early. Abuse Behold as if it were your reality check before any talk that could be a turning point in the story, because Esoteric Ebb thrives on nuance and hidden intent. In a campaign so political and full of tense conversations, having a way to see behind what the NPC is performing is practically playing with a narrative advantage. I do it like this. Before clicking that option that seems official or definitive, I stop, breathe, and use Behold, like someone adjusting a lens focus. Sometimes the NPC's text is polite, but the vibe is defensive, aggressive, or simply calculating, and reading that mental state totally changes how I enter the dialogue. The pro tip here is that this isn't just for catching a liar. It's to prevent you from falling into the trap of responding the way the game wants you to respond. If Behold shows you that the person is hiding something vital, I switch my stance immediately. I ask more specific questions, avoid giving away information for free, and most importantly, I don't confirm anything that could lock me into a bad route. And the best part is that in Esoteric Ebb, conversation is a battlefield. The game literally leans on branching dialogues and choices that push consequences. So treating Behold as a pre-conversation ritual, like every time the subject is important, I read first and only then speak, leaves you much more in control of the direction of the chat, rather than just reacting to the NPC's improvisation. I treat the voices in my head as a group of loud advisors, not an infallible GPS. They speak with great confidence, but confidence isn't truth. And several times I realized that a voice driven by instinct, vanity, or ideology was trying to push me toward the most dramatic reading of the scene possible. The tip here is simple and powerful. Listen to everything, but don't hand over the steering wheel to the first voice that shouts the loudest. What works for me is remembering that each voice has its own bias. So I start asking, is this opinion coming from evidence or personality? There are voices that see a threat in every handshake, voices that want to turn everyone into an ally, and voices that just want to cause chaos. When I feel like I'm jumping to a conclusion, I take a step back and think, okay, this is an interpretation, not a fact. And that's where the city's politics come in. Context matters more than intuition. If the environment is polarized, if there's a power struggle, or a faction trying to control the narrative, I automatically put the voices in suspicion mode and filter everything through the setting. Who wins with this version of facts? Who loses? And what would this person gain by provoking me right now? In this kind of game, sometimes the most sensible remark is exactly the one that puts you on the wrong path because it ignores the bigger board. In practice, I use the voices as a menu of hypotheses. I take the idea they suggest, but I only buy into it when the situation confirms it. If a voice wants to lead me to accuse someone too early, I hold back, ask one more question, pick a neutral option, and try to collect more signs before committing. When you learn to filter like this, the voices become a strategic tool, not a mental shortcut that makes you fall for a ready-made narrative. Exploring Esoteric Ebb upwards totally changed how I walk through the city. I started looking at rooftops, balconies, and narrow alleys as alternative doors, not just background scenery. And the best part is that utility spells become your master key, because you stop thinking of them as combat tools and start using them for mobility, access, and even environmental investigation. When I see an area that looks inaccessible, I don't even try to force the obvious path first. I test my magical options as if I were solving an urban puzzle. You know that feeling of the game didn't put that there for nothing? Well, many times it's exactly that. A vertical detail teasing you to use creativity, and magic is the nudge you needed to get where the normal map doesn't want you to go. And that's where the tip turns into gold for the story. Political secrets and faction business usually live far from the tourist route of dialogue. I've made it a habit to think like this. If someone important is hiding something, why would it be on the ground floor, right in front of everyone? Rooftops and hidden passages make a lot of sense as meeting spots, hideouts, drop-offs, surveillance. And when you start exploring these levels, it feels like you're reading the city behind the social theater. So my advice is, every time you learn or gain access to a new utility spell, do a mental vertical tour. Go back to neighborhoods, revisit spots that seemed closed. Look again at those buildings you ignored because you thought they were just decoration. Esoteric Ebb heavily rewards this kind of curious player. And when you find a faction secret in a place you only reach through creativity, the feeling is that you truly earned that information. Your goblin sidekick is more than just comic relief for the game's heavy dialogue. He is a tactical tool that many people ignore because they are prejudiced, thinking he's just a funny NPC. The truth is that he possesses rogue skills that you don't have. And when you understand this, he becomes an extension of your eyes and hands in scenes that require stealth. I learned to see him as my discreet entry specialist, while I handle the front. The synergy works like this. You enter the scene and use diplomacy, conversation, behold whatever is necessary to hold the attention of guards, suspects, or whoever is blocking access. While I'm there performing my social character theater, my goblin is working behind the scenes, scavenging, grabbing items, and finding clues that I would never have access to alone. It's like having two characters playing simultaneously, except you control the strategy for both. And the coolest part is that this complements exactly where your main character usually fails: dexterity and silent operations. I don't need to force my build to be good at thievery if I have a partner who is born ready for it. He covers my weakness, and I cover his with my social presence, so the duo becomes an investigation machine. When you combine this with the game's crime scenes, where hidden information makes all the difference in the political plot, his value explodes. So, next time you reach a place full of guards or a scene that seems blocked, don't just think about what you can do alone. Use your goblin as a chess piece. Position him to act while you hold the spotlight on the main stage. This division of labor not only works, but also makes the gameplay much more satisfying because you feel like you're truly outsmarting the system, not just rolling dice until you pass. Time in Esoteric Ebb isn't just a courtesy of the game. It's real, advancing with every action you take and discovery you make. So forget the idea that you're gonna do literally everything before going to sleep. I already fell into this trap, trying to be a completionist, exploring every corner, talking to everyone, and by the time I realized it, the day had turned and I missed windows of opportunity that won't come back. The election is happening with or without you, and the game doesn't wait for you to be ready. What changed my approach was understanding that I needed to filter what is urgent from what is merely interesting. There are missions that are cool to do, but don't change anything on the political board. And there are missions that directly affect how public opinion sees things. I started asking myself, before accepting anything, does this alter people's perception of the candidates the factions, or the city events? If yes, it goes to the top of my priority list because the clock is ticking. The election is the anchor event of the story, and when it arrives, certain doors close permanently. So my practical tip is, when you feel the day is advancing and you have 3 things to do, choose the one with a visible political factor. The side quest to find a neighbor's cat can wait, but the investigation exposing a candidate's corruption cannot. Because after the election, that information might become old news with no impact. Treat each day as a limited and finite resource. Plan your actions looking at the election calendar, and don't blame yourself for not doing everything. Esoteric Ebb is designed for you to make tough choices about where to spend your time. And part of the game's tension is exactly that. You are an important investigator, but the world doesn't revolve around your pace. Prioritize, execute, and live with the consequences of choosing that lead over the other. I'll be very honest with you, the first time I unlocked a mind control spell, I thought, man, this is where the game gets easy. It seemed like the perfect shortcut, right? A stubborn NPC won't talk? Boom, magic, they open their mouth. But the game is smarter than that. And this efficiency comes with a price that you only discover when it's too late to turn back. It's that classic RPG trap. Immediate power that costs you your future. What the game doesn't shout in your face, but makes clear through subtle reactions, is that the community feels it when you are forcing things. Reputation is a living thing in Esoteric Ebb, and using magical domination on a character isn't seen as a clever trick, it's seen as a violation. I noticed characters starting to distrust me, dialogue tones changing, and opportunities that were open simply vanished without an obvious explanation. The game was recording my choices, and I was being marked as someone who doesn't respect the autonomy of others. And here comes the hard blow. Certain factions, especially the more ethical ones with clear principles, simply won't talk to you if you gain a reputation as a mental manipulator. I tried to form an alliance with a group that valued consent and transparency, and they slammed the door in my face when they found out about my methods. You literally close off important narrative routes because nobody wants to ally with someone who could flip the switch in their mind at any moment. It's a content lock disguised as a moral consequence. So my suggestion is use mind control as a last resort, the kind of card you only pull when there really is no other way out. And even then, be prepared for the collateral damage. The game gives you power, but asks if you are mature enough not to abuse it. Sometimes the harder option, the long conversation, the patient investigation is exactly what opens the most valuable doors down the line. Think about your legacy before hacking someone's mind, because Esoteric Ebb remembers, and eventually the whole world finds out. I learned the hard way that ignoring books and documents scattered around the city is literally leaving gameplay power on the table. In the beginning, I skipped all that text, thinking it was just cosmetic fluff, until I discovered that history knowledge works as a passive social skill that can resolve entire conflicts without me needing to roll a single die. When you understand the legal and political foundation of the city, you stop begging for success in checks and start imposing arguments based on precedents. The magic happens when you are in a heated discussion, and instead of trying to force your way through with charisma or threats, you simply cite an ancient law, a previous case, or a forgotten treaty that dismantles your opponent's position. It's that feeling of an intellectual checkmate that the game rewards when you've actually done your homework. I've gotten out of situations that seemed impossible just because I read a scroll in the wrong alley 2 hours prior, and that knowledge became my silent weapon. What I do now is treat every document as a potential master key. Scrolls from abandoned libraries, records on police station desks, letters in corrupt officials' drawers, everything goes on my radar. Because when the game detects that you possess that specific knowledge, it unlocks dialogue options that don't appear otherwise. You aren't just reading history. You're collecting argumentative ammunition that bypasses the dice roll and goes straight to certainty. So, if you're one of those people who skips text and goes straight to NPCs to talk, I recommend changing that stance in Esoteric Ebb. The time invested reading about the city's founding, past faction conflicts, and the laws governing political behavior comes back multiplied in confrontation scenes where you simply know more than the other side. Knowledge is power in this game, and the difference between an average player and a master investigator is often exactly how much they read before opening their mouth. I learned the hard way that resources like inspiration and buff spells aren't infinite, and wasting them on small checks is the fastest way to screw yourself over in the moments that really matter. In the beginning, I used everything to impress some random guard or pass a silly dialogue, thinking I was just building momentum. But when I reached the final interrogations, I was dry, rolling naked dice against the most verbally punishing characters in the game. Saving became my golden rule, because these final confrontations do not forgive failure. What I do now is mentally map out the checks. If it's a routine roll, casual conversation, or exploration without pressure, I go in dry, trusting my base skills. But for interrogations, where every question is a verbal confrontation that can unmask lies or extract crucial confessions, that's where I save the heavy ammo. These moments are designed to be brutal, with high penalties if you fail, and a well-placed inspiration can be the difference between a vital clue or a dead end in the investigation. It's funny how the game teaches you patience through scarcity. You see the inspiration meter blinking and think, just one more, but then the verbal boss comes and you realize you're out. My strategy is to list in the corner of my mental screen the big events to come, arc finales, faction leaders, trial scenes, and only then do I release the buffs. Saving isn't being stingy, it's being strategic. Because failing a final interrogation doesn't just cost you information, it can tank your reputation and entire alliances. So, if you're playing Esoteric Ebb and you see these resources accumulating, don't be tempted to blow them all early. Think of the interrogation as the final boss of each chapter, where punishing rolls test not just luck, but planning. Save it for the verbal climax, use it with precision, and you'll come out of those confrontations feeling like you mastered the game, not like it mastered you with a bad die. One of the things that gripped me the most was realizing that starting as a cleric doesn't put you in a fixed box. It's almost as if the character sheet is written in pencil and the campaign is erasing and rewriting your doctrine as you choose sides. The game ties your ideological, religious, and political choices to the way your character connects with the divine. So you aren't just choosing dialogues, you are, in practice, building a sort of narrative multi-class behind the scenes. I started viewing the city's political ideologies as if they were hidden subclasses for my own cleric. When I aligned myself with a more radical faction, one more rigid in its view of faith and power, I could feel that weight reflecting in the tone of my blessings and the gifts I received later on. Conversely, when I played as a more conciliatory, humanist character, the divine rewards seemed to dialogue with that stance, as if the game were saying, okay, this is the type of cleric you are becoming, so these are the tools that fit you. Because of this, I stopped choosing dialogue options just for the immediate plus reputation and started thinking about doctrinal consistency. Every time you take a side in a political debate, support a law, or defend a specific group, it's like you're spending points on an invisible talent tree. Near the end of the game, when the heavier divine spells start dropping, you feel the echo of all this. It's not random loot, it's the accumulated consequence of the ideology you embraced from the start. So my tip is, play Esoteric Ebb as if you are building a faith plus politics build at the same time. Decide early what kind of cleric you want to be within that world. Reformist, conservative, opportunist, radical, and try to be consistent, even when the out-of-character option seems more advantageous in the short term. The firmer you are in that line, the more the endgame rewards you with a spell kit that feels tailor-made for the story you chose to tell with your character.
And even when the stars seem far